You're listening to the 108 Days of Chanting Podcast, a show where we aim to understand who we really are so we can more effectively move towards what we want. My name is Chaitanya Das, and I'm a husband, a father, and an inspiring devotee, best known for not being known at all. I'm sitting down with interesting people to talk about their story, the lessons they've learned, and what it really means to be happy. What's going on, Spirit Souls? I'm your host, Chaitanya Das, and welcome to the 108 Days of Chanting Podcast. Today, I have two friends joining me here in the conversation. I have Hamsa and Nitai. They have their own podcast, The Sole Purpose, on Spotify. If you guys want to check this out. They are gurukulis. They grew up in a movement called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And I'm glad you guys, accepted the invitation to join me here on the podcast and have this conversation with me. So we did have some technical issues. I have to reset, and I'm going to ask, and Hans was sharing a few things with us, which I'm going to ask to do it again. But I'm going to start with Nitai. If you can go ahead and give us an intro, kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to so we can, kick off this conversation. Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us on. So myself, I grew up in Nagari, which is, I spent a little bit of time in, I think like the Baltimore area and then also in California, but the vast majority of my childhood was spent in Nagari in a farm community around devotees. I was born into the devotee movement. My grandparents are devotees. My mother was born into the movement. So I was very blessed in the sense that it felt like one big family growing up. You could walk through the woods to your buddy's house and just walk in the door. Like, it wasn't like you didn't have to call and make arrangements most of the time. Like, especially with certain community members, even more than others. But like Hans and I just like basically lived at each other's houses. We'd go from one house to the other doing each other's chores.
Yeah.
And so that was a very nice feeling growing up. Awesome. We didn't always love the chores, but looking back, it was a great time. And then growing up, I got into doing plays a bit. So I'm very theatrical. I like a little bit of drama, and I like to do
in a good way, the good drama, right? The good drama.
Yeah.
I do a lot of writing. I grew up. My high school career. I didn't do any kind of gurukul really. I think there was something sort of. They had like some kind of devotee school very briefly in Nagari that I was in for a year or two, but it wasn't very long. I did a lot of homeschooling, which really meant I was reading and doing very little else and then fudging it at the end of the year. Not encouraging that for any kids to listen to this. I'm just saying that's what I did. But the reading was good. At least I wasn't, reading is, if you're going to do something other than school, at least reading broadens your mind in some way. So I was doing a lot of that. I read Lord of the Rings before I was 10. I was very into reading. That was always my like go-to to de-stress, to just like go into a fantasy world.
Yeah.
I was writing before I could write. I used to dictate to my grandmother before I was 5 years old, and she would write down my stories. I'd tell her stories about spiders and ants fighting. So I've always been very much into this idea of like storytelling and world creating and that kind of thing. So as I grew up, I started doing a lot of plays. I got the opportunity to work with Bhakti Mahaprabhu. You saw a play a friend of mine did, Gora and I did in Harrisburg for a Rath Yatra, for a chariot festival. Mm-hmm. And then we got to go and travel with him in Canada and do a bunch of plays with him, and it was really fun. We got about 7 months just kind of flying around Canada, driving around Canada with a Maharaj, getting very little sleep, and lots of service and lots of acting, and it was a good time. So
nice.
I really enjoyed that.
Maharaj is the walking
the walking
monk.
The walking monk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, just to
He's
make
awesome.
sure I'm thinking of the right person.
Yeah, he walked across Canada like 3 times in Crocs, and then I think another time in Nikes, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe twice now more in Nikes. Nice. They sponsored him. Nice. But so then I ended up in Florida. I always told myself I wouldn't be in Florida.
Me too.
I was like, I'm not going to go to Florida. There's too many people down there. But then I ended up coming here because I went to school for massage, and I was trying to save up some money after school. And Bhakti Mahaprabhu kept calling me every day. He wanted help with a youth tour that he was doing. He wanted someone to come and someone that had already worked with him, help train up the kids and be one of the characters in the performance. And I kept saying no, but he called me for like a week straight every morning. And I'd wake up to a call from him saying, will you come now? And I was like, no, I got stuff to do. I got to save up money. I got material objectives, And he just kept calling me and was like, how about now? And so finally I just said, okay, fine. And they'd already even started the tour, and he still hadn't stopped calling me. So I went to Canada on a bus. I got to meet up with them. and the bus tour ended in Florida. So that's how I ended up here. I never left. I started staying with Hans's dad and his brother. He was in the military still at this time, or Hamsa, sorry. Hamsa and Hans, they're kind of interchangeable, and I go back and forth.
It's okay.
So I got to live with them for a little while, and then I eventually moved out on my own. I got a job here, and now I'm just here. This is just my life now, and it was nice to be close to Hamsa and Dhruva again. Because we hadn't been living close for a while. We were really, really close as kids, and then we'd been apart for a while. So it was really nice to get back, and it felt a little bit like a piece of Gita Nagari was down here. And the community is really nice down here. So I got to do some plays here. Now we're just, working to pay our bills, and we're doing a little bit of these conversations and readings and stuff to just kind of enlighten our moods and spirits and learn and be prepared to be good influences on the people around us so that, people can be happy they met us and they got something out of it, and just try to be good influences and affect the world in some small way on a personal level with the people that you interact with on a day-to-day. So that's really what Hamsa and I have been focused on, at least from my side of it. And I know he's definitely been doing that. And we do little readings and talks together and stuff. So that's really nice. That's a quick overview of who I am.
That's awesome. Yeah. You guys have quite a few episodes already, right? Recorded for the podcast?
On our podcast, we have... we have like 40 something somewhere between 40 and 50 episodes.
And then plus we have a whole bunch upcoming for sure that we've already recorded. We're just kind of, they're in the pipeline.
We're like 5 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
5 weeks ahead on our podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. We actually kind of, a few months ago, we had like a discussion where we were thinking like, we both were reflecting on how fortunate we were to grow up in Gita Nagari and that community that we had. And I remember we were talking, and I'm like, I brought this up, and we were just kind of riffing, and then we were, we kind of came up with this idea like, we should interview all these people that we grew up with that someday are not going to be here, and we're very, very influential people in our lives, not just in our life. I mean,
the community,
all of our life, the community, and they have a lot to share, and rather than people having to listen to us jabber on, I mean, I would rather let them hear from all these other people that we got to learn from. We're working to share that with,
Yeah, we just started.
Also, what you were saying too about your podcast and wanting to leave something for your kids, I strongly share that sentiment because, my grandma and grandpa, they both passed. My grandpa was in the military, and when we were going through, their things after my grandma died, he passed when I was still in the service. We were going through their things, and they actually met when he was in the Korean War. She was a nurse, and they would write letters to each other. And I'm going through their things, and he had all of his medals and everything, and he had a whole stack of letters that he kept all the letters that they had wrote to each other over the years.
Nice.
And I remember that was like very powerful for me. I'm like, wow, they're both not here, but I can go through these letters and like really get to know them better. So I thought, if someday, even if just my kids watch this, if they're around, I mean, it would be, I know if, when my mom and dad are no longer here, I would love to have that. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
It is awesome, man, because we don't know what's going to happen. Just for those
you
that
never
are
know
listening,
when you're gonna die, man.
Exactly. Just for those that are listening, to refer to what you're saying, I was sharing that I had an episode where I thought there's something wrong with me, especially considering of my family history, right, dealing with cancer, and that is what inspired me to start this podcast and have conversations with people, to just leave something, to my kids so they can refer to, and not only the podcast but the YouTube channel, right, that I can share my insight, kind of my realizations regarding Krishna consciousness, is regarding life. That is awesome. So, Hamsa, since you're speaking now, I want you to go ahead and share a little bit what you've already shared in the beginning, but unfortunately I had the technical issues.
No worries. I'll try to sum it up a little shorter.
Cool.
So my mom and dad are John, Debbie Havlick, Jai Gopal Damayanti. Those are their initiated names. They're initiated by Ramapada Swami.
Is Ramapada Swami still around? I don't know who it is though.
Ramapada Swami, yeah. Right now he's doing a lot of preaching in China and like New York, the Brooklyn Temple, New York. That was, he was a big part of that project for a while.
Okay.
Cool. And yeah, so they were both from Wisconsin. That's where they kind of met each other, met Prabhupada's books.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no community there, so they started going to the Chicago Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the first deities that I remember ever visiting, seeing Sri Sri Radhakishore Kishori.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where like my love, I guess, for Krishna consciousness began, that I can remember. And growing up, we lived out in the country there. When I was about 3, my brother came along, and then that's when we moved to Gitanagari. My mom and dad just wanted to be in a community nearby that would support them in that. My mom's family, they were very, very unsupportive. It was very hard for her to, the fact that she kind of, converted to the Hare Krishna. There was a lot of pressure there. So she wanted to get away from it. We came to the Gitanagari. I grew up not having, we didn't have a TV. We lived on the land. We had some acreage. My mom and dad eventually got a cow. So we lived like that. No TV. I did a lot of reading like Nitai. We'd nerd out, Lord of the Rings, it was all Star Wars, but Mahabharata, Ramayana, Krishna book. My mom used to read to us, like, even as teenagers, every night she would read to us. That was like her thing.
Nice.
One Karmi book and then Krishna book, Mahabharata, whatever. So yeah, then I went to Baltimore Gurukul for a little while when I was 5, and then I ended up going, my brother and I both went to Vrindavan Gurukul for a couple years, 98, 99, 2000. Came back, homeschooled a little. 9/11 happened. And after that, I think my brother, he went back to Vrindavan, and then I went to Mayapur. And then I did about 2.5 years there. There was some tension with India and Pakistan, so I came home. And then I made the choice that, I want to go to public high school so I can experience that. And actually, Nitai and I went to high school together, which was nice. So, but yeah, him and I have been fast friends, as long as I can remember, basically. And, after high school, during high school, I started working on the ambulance as a medic. I did that for a couple of years. And then in second semester of college, I went off and joined the Army, much to my mother's, at the time, chagrin. She was not happy. I actually came and racked out at Nitai's house. She told me, just go to college, and then we'll see. You might change your mind, because I want her to let me sign up when I was 17, but I needed her permission.
Yes.
She's like, no. So then on my way home, I hit up the recruiters. I signed everything, and I called my mom and said, Mom, I joined the Army. And I went and I crashed at Nitai's for a week. I didn't want to come home.
What a face to wrath.
I was a little worried, but now in hindsight, she's actually very happy I did that.
Nice.
And so yeah, I did that. I was a medic in the Army, and then I got out. That's where my wife and I kind of started. Started dating, and we eventually got married, and we have 2 children. Shruti, she's 12, and Vedacharya, he's 5. And after I got out, we moved down here. My parents moved down here. Nitai's been here. So I wasn't at first thrilled about being down here, but the community is great. The school is amazing. The Montessori, curriculum. And I think it's so important for the kids, especially at a young age, to have a healthy, nurturing education environment, spiritually and materially. So. And then, Nitai and I, especially during this pandemic, it's been really, out of the 15 years I've worked in healthcare, this last year and a half was just really rough. For not just for me, for everybody, of course, and it really pushed me. Well, actually, 2018. Sorry, not to ramble, but 2018 we ended up. Krishna made some arrangements, and we were able to go back to Vrindavan. And this was the first time I brought my wife, and I didn't bring them. Krishna brought them, Radharani. But we went for Kartik for 2 weeks, and so the kids got to come, and that was the first time I'd been back in Vrindavan since 2002. So
Nice.
that was like a huge whoo. But it was, I think it was one of the most invigorating experiences of my life. Coming back now as an adult, I've been working and, reading the philosophy, and, I'd grown up knowing it, but now coming back with the new lens from seeing so much suffering, experiencing suffering, and now being able to be back there and realize how fortunate I was to be able to go there, come there and live in the Holy Dham, and, I had a whole new appreciation for the sacrifices my parents made to send me there. So that really kind of I think that trip back to India in 2018 really was that the campfire that somebody forgot to put out, and then it just starts burning. And then about a year and a half later is when him and I started really kind of we initially wanted to do a little podcast and, talk about nerd stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. But then the more we talked about it, the more we realized, if we're going to put all this time and effort into doing something like this, why don't we do it about something that's actually going to benefit us and benefit other people? Meaningful. And so, that's where we're at. And I feel very fortunate and blessed to be able to have a friend like him. And the community,
awesome.
Like the community that we live in, and
Well, you are very fortunate. At least from my perspective, I think I consider myself very fortunate as well. But to see you guys growing up in this philosophy and then having the positive experience that you had, and make a conscious choice as an adult to dive even deeper. I always have this conversation with people that I talk with about the philosophy, what it means to be Krishna consciousness, right? And again, I approach it from my perspective because I grew up Christian, practicing Christian, moved away from it, and then I came here. I met the devotees in the early 2000s, read the Bhagavad Gita, got into it, and it was a conscious decision as an adult to be like, I identified myself I identified with this philosophy, so I wanted to practice. So it's interesting to see people that actually grew up in the movement, but then make a decision as an adult, make a choice to be like, I'm a practicing Hare Krishna, right? Or the term, I'm a practicing Hare Krishna, I'm a practicing devotee. So it's inspiring to see people like you guys, like you're sharing, that you decide to make that decision, and then with that decision comes the idea or the initiative of creating something, like starting the podcast to have a conversation and have that realization, which leads me to another question. I was going to ask you guys what brought or kept you in Krishna consciousness. I think that is answered, right? You're born, raised in the movement. Now as adults, you guys have made a decision. Hamsa, you have moved into family life. Nitai is doing his thing as a young man. I want to ask you, what is it about Krishna consciousness that is most attracting to you? That is something that you can hold as, okay, this is what I identify with the most within this philosophy. Being someone that you work at the VA, Hamsa. You work at the VA or Shams?
Yeah. I work at the VA now. I used to work at North Florida.
Exactly. So, Nitai is a professional as well. You guys have a what is it called? A secular life, right? You have a normal life, working out, interacting with everybody, and you make a decision to be a practicing devotee. What does it mean for you guys to practice Krishna consciousness nowadays?
You want to go first, Nitai? It don't matter.
You go. I'm thinking of how to word it, so you go.
Okay.
I think you got it.
Krishna consciousness. I think, at the end of the day, what keeps me coming back, or keeps me at least trying to come back, is is just the emphasis that is placed by the acharyas and by the bona fide authorities and teachers on pure selfless love. The I did take a couple religious studies classes when I was in college, and I've read the Bible, I've read many of the Buddhist teachings and Zen, some of the Quran. But what struck me, was just how this fundamental teaching of bhakti or love, it pervades all of the traditions. And so as I look around, especially when I joined the military, the Middle East, we've been fighting there for 20 years, Muslim versus Muslim, Christian versus Muslim, white versus black versus Middle Eastern, so much suffering and horrific things that people are doing to each other simply, and according to our philosophy, simply because they are identifying with the body. They're identifying with something that's not their real self. I'm this kind of Muslim. I'm that kind of Muslim. You're American. I'm Iraqi. I'm Afghani. I'm gonna, and because I've listening to many of Srila Prabhupada's lectures, it's like something that it's so basic that children even understand it. And when I take my kids to the playground, I see them playing on the playground. They're young. It doesn't matter whether the kid is fat or thin or, disabled or black, white, in between. It doesn't matter. The kids all play together and they're all happy.
Yeah. And
so that to me indicates that it's innately in our nature to care for others with no regard for our outer appearance.
Yeah.
And so the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and this idea that we love, and Jesus is one of my favorite devotees of all time. Like, I'm not even joking. I mean, the pure selflessness that he exhibits, if Jesus is what takes you deeper towards your relationship and deepening your relationship with God or with other people, then that's great. Like, so that, that's the thing that brings me back, is that, there's not this sense, at least from my understanding of the philosophy, that I have to convert and I have to do, and I feel it's a very important thing to get straight to people that are just hearing about it. Is like, it's not about conversion. It's about deepening the path that you're already on, just going a little deeper and going, and that, that like love and the spirit that we all share within us, the super soul, the, Paramatma, like, that's really what matters. And it just, I see a lot of death and suffering, mental anguish. I have been seeing, mental health counseling and stuff since I got out of the military, because I knew like it would benefit me, not just for my own immediate life, but it would also help me make progress in my spiritual life by being able to kind of work out some of these things. So that's another thing I'm passionate about, is like mental health. And I've had a lot of friends kill themselves in the military, and I feel like it's because the suffering that's going on is because our society as a whole, we've lost touch. We've lost touch with our true selves, and the fact that our true nature is to love unconditionally.
Yeah.
And the closer we get back to that, we're seeing the Black Lives Matter and a lot of, civil rights activity, and I love it. But what I would like to see is like, let's take it deeper. Like, let's take that civil rights deeper. And the one thing that you can actually find common ground with anybody, regardless of where they come from, including whether they're an animal or a human, is the idea that we're a spirit just residing in the body, just like a car. You get in it and you get out. And I think if we could get society to move in that direction, it would solve so many problems.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada recognized that, and that's why he came. And so that's why I stay with it, because I can see the value in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I second a lot of what he said, as far as like the idea that if we could get on the level where we treat each other like we're all spirit souls, it would eliminate a lot of the problems we have with identifying too much with the body. I think for me also, I see a lot of suffering, which myself included, with the idea that we can buy happiness somehow. If you get the right cool thing, if you have the best car, if you have the most attractive partner, whatever the idea is, it's like, if I have this, then, I'm successful. Yeah. But what's interesting is if you really look at it, you see a lot of celebrities that have so many of those things, and then you see how much trouble they still have with their life. Yeah. How unhappy a lot of them are. You see people that still overdose, even though from a certain perspective, but they had everything. But they clearly didn't have everything, because why else would they be struggling with the things that they sometimes struggle with? And so I think for me, it's been a place where, like, if I feel a little lost, like, what am I doing? Working to pay bills, to work to pay bills? Like, what is the like, really? And then it's like, oh, like Kṛṣṇa. Like, that gives you such a sense of peace, of like, and there's something beyond this. And for me too, like, the more I read, because when you get to a certain age, it's like, okay, I was born into this, like Chase said, like, I was born into this. Now I got to figure out, do I really believe this for myself? Like, people, I was born into this. This is just what I was around. I've been sort of indoctrinated into this, but like, let me examine it really. Because then I also found that sometimes people would ask me questions and I couldn't answer it very well. And then I'm also misrepresenting my own beliefs because I'm not well read enough. So then I started really kind of digging a little deeper and reading. And the more I read, the more I find that there's also not this question of just believe. Like, when you talk to certain people, they go with, well, you just have to believe. And I'm like, okay, sure. But there should be, like, what's awesome about Krishna consciousness to me is that there is a logical and even scientific explanation for all of it. Yeah. Now, some of it you might have to say, well, I can't prove that because we don't have the right equipment to prove this one detail. But so much of it is actually somewhat provable, that the little bits and pieces that are like hard to prove, they at least make logical sense. And because of how much other things can be proven, it just adds up. It's like, why not? And it, like Hans was saying, it doesn't argue with the other religions. It's the same thing. And that's true. I don't really have this sectarian view. I was talking to some coworkers about this, and they asked me, basically it was about whether or not I believed in Jesus Christ. And some of them were astounded that I did.
My favorite question.
Well, yeah. I said, of course I do. I believe he was the Son of God. He was a devotee of the Lord. Like, he came with a message. And they're like, well, how can you believe that if you're not a Christian? And so I told them, I was like, for me, and this is, maybe somewhat flawed, but my viewpoint on it is basically just like a father. Like, you're both fathers. When you have kids at different ages, you're going to give them different instruction because they're ready for different things. Your 4-year-old is not going to have the same rules as a 17-year-old. Like, they're going to have to be home with you. You're keeping an eye on them. You're worried about them more. The 17-year-old's almost an adult. You got to give them a little more freedom. So let them make some mistakes. Let them figure some stuff out. So God, like, you call him the Father in Christianity, right? The God, the Father. You're talking about somebody who's bringing a message that is appropriate for time, place, and circumstance, and the people he's presenting the message to at a certain place and time. And even brothers will fight over that. Brothers and sisters will fight over, I can't believe, why is he allowed to go out? Why can't I go out? And they're different ages. Like, there's different rules. Just like we've fought, unfortunately, humans have turned religion into a reason to fight sometimes. And so I think a lot of that, it's coming from the same person. And, humans sometimes get a little twisted, but that's what we do. And that's why we're here working on ourselves and trying to be better and get more into bhakti, or the yoga of love, and really just like examine ourselves and try to treat one another like a little piece of Krishna is in them, just like, within us, and really treat them how you'd like to be treated. Like, people like to say that. So I think that, like, plus everything that Hans already said, but I also really feel deeply about that scientific nature of it, and the fact that you can
for sure
evidence it.
I second that.
And to me, I feel nothing. I don't think I disagree with any other religion. It's not like I'm a Hare Krishna in spite of all the other religions. I feel very much that I'm a Hare Krishna, and I appreciate somebody who's spiritual and devotional. I've met wonderful people that go to church every Sunday that are amazing spiritual people. Like, it doesn't mean that I think they're less spiritual than me. In fact, some of them are probably much more spiritual than I am. I just don't view it in that sectarian way. And I think that's mostly due to the way we were raised. And I really appreciate that, because I find that there's a lot of roadblocks for people where if something is different, they want to fight it. It's like, oh, what is this? And I think, thankfully for us, growing up in a Hare Krishna community, you got people from South Africa coming, you got people from Ghana coming, you got people, your Trinidadians that you're friends with, you got all these people. It's like melting pot, even more so than America already is. And I think that aspect of it is also really nice, because when you're presented with something new, you're so used to new stuff and different things, and you're learning this ancient Vedic literature, And so like when you meet something new or see something different, my initial reaction isn't like, whoa, it's like, oh, what's that? Like I am curious about it.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge difference for me personally, at least.
Yeah. That's cool. I appreciate listening to hearing that from you guys, because it's nice to come to see that. I relate with a lot of what you're saying, because again, although of course obviously I wasn't born in the movement, I met the devotees and read the Bhagavad Gita. I was already in my late 20s, almost 30. I was 29 years old, but it was a conscious decision, and I saw that it's all encompassing. It is it's not like if you're not this, you're not that, because it's about developing love of God, right? And understanding who God really is. And one thing that you mentioned, Nitai, that I appreciated, it's like you use the word proof. I see it as like evidence, right? Evidence, like the scriptures and sadhu. Sadhu means saintly persons, and guru, like we say, acharyas, the spiritual masters. They give evidence of the things that what the scripture is presenting, what other saintly persons are presenting, that is hard to present proof of the existence of God, right? In a material way, like a scientist, like you want to put in a petri dish and kind of like try to see exactly how it happened. From that perspective, and God doesn't want it to. Nobody wants to be understood from that perspective, right? You want to be understood from a perspective of love, from a perspective of acceptance. So I saw that within Krishna consciousness, but that came with a perspective of evidence. There's some evidence here, and it addresses all aspects of life. And then one thing that both of you mentioned is like it gets to I think Hamsa, you said, it gets to the core of it. It goes deep and it gets to the bottom line that you're not this body. And that's the thing that I remember in the beginning really thinking, right? Okay, jiva, right? Soul. But I heard that in Christianity as well. Oh, we are soul. But it's a completely different understanding, right? In Krishna consciousness is so complete, and I can understand from where I stand. I can move from where I want, from where I stand, and understanding, okay, I'm not this body. What does that mean, right? I always mention to my father-in-law, oh, I broke my favorite pen. Sorry, never mind. I was just fiddling with it. I just broke it. I always mention to my father-in-law, like, I noticed that this Krishna consciousness, it's not like a certificate that you once you got it, boom, you stamped and that's it. You either are or you're not in the moment, right?
Living in the moment is super crucial.
It's so powerful to me, because it really bums me when people are like, oh, I've been chanting for 50 years. It's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I mean, it means everything. It's great. It's great. We are fortunate that, we've been chanting. But usually when that is said, is in a mood that, oh, I already know that, or I know more than you, or I know, which is like we don't hold knowledge. Like the jiva only holds, it's the pleasure potency, only holds desire, is pleasure seeker by nature. Krishna is the one that gives forgetfulness and remembrance. Anything out of that, it's illusion. So and then I came to realize, it's like, it's in the moment. You either are and you're not. And then go deeper into that understanding. What does that really mean? Is to understand, see everything as Krishna. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, all emanations come from me. There's nothing. Guru Govinda Swami Maharaj says, one of the lectures I was listening, what he says, is there anything that you can see, hear, or feel that does not come from Krishna? He says in the Bhagavad, I'm the source of all emanations. Everything. So as we experience it, I was like, okay, how can I see that in a practical way in my life? When my wife might be upset because I said something, some coworker was nasty with me and it cost me jealous, and it cost me a promotion, right? How do I see all these things? And I feel that Krishna consciousness gives the answers to all those things in a very practical way, where I can live life pursuing what I want, right? If it's the promotion, no problem. Don't become discouraged. It is what it is. And that's where I think faith comes into it. You can have that applied faith. And I remember my point now. Faith based on the evidence and based in knowledge. It's
Yeah.
like it's like people say like there's no blind faith here. It's based
Yeah.
in knowledge. It's like flying
Yeah.
a plane, right? If you got someone that never been in a little plane before, just a two-seater plane. The person like, oh, it might be afraid, what's going to happen, especially if you're going through a turbulence, right?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on? They don't have applied experience and knowledge of that machine. Where the pilot, you see, like, why are you so calm? You see, because he has experience. He or she has
Yeah.
experience. They have
Yeah.
applied knowledge regarding that specific experience. And that one should call faith. That is faith.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to have faith based on applied knowledge. And
Yeah.
by using that applied knowledge, I can see that, it makes me a better husband. It makes me a better professional. It makes me a better ... whatever I engage in. So that's awesome to hear, especially from you guys. And forgive me to ask, but you're in the mid-20s, right? 28, 29? You're
31.
not 30. Oh, you're 31?
31.
You're getting old, bro. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I know. I'm starting to see some gray hairs there. Like, what the hell?
No, but it's awesome to see such realization and at that age, right? I mean, you guys are not young yet, so never mind, But you see, and that has been my experience because I'm a talker. I like talking to people. I kind of see where they
Yeah.
come from, and usually it's not that realization. It's kind of superficial, which is all good. I mean, it's great. You're at least here.
Yeah.
You're at least here. You're around. You're chanting as much as you can, and it's great, right? Lord Chaitanya said, if you say Hare Krishna, you're a Vaishnava. So we have to respect everybody.
Of course.
But it is crucial, I think, to have that intention. The intention, my intention, I hold the desire to understand and practice this Krishna consciousness in all aspects of my life. And it seems, based on what you guys are sharing with me, that you are there, with the podcast, with your families, your relationships, and that is awesome to hear. So I have another question for you guys. What advice would you give to someone that is wanting to find a spiritual path today?
I mean, and this is where I think this is where like mental health for me has been really big, important part of my life. Especially, in the military, there's a saying, that there's no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole, right? When your life's on the line or bullets are flying, everyone's praying to somebody. When shit hits the fan,
Yeah.
There's no time for atheism. And but then at the same time, there's a lot of veterans committing suicide. And so I think that's really where I first started, like, actively trying to, what I would call, attempt to preach. I was familiar with the philosophy, but I had never really had to explain it to people that didn't know about it. So, I think first of all, you have to be in, not to say that you have to get your life in order before you pursue spirituality by any means, but it needs to be done holistically. And what I mean by that is, you need to take care of your body, you need to take care of your mind, and you need to take care of your spirit. And so I normally try to approach it from that direction with people, with the veterans that I see. A lot of veterans, they're my favorite. It's like a brotherhood. I feel so deeply and for them, because I know that they go through so much suffering, so much, anguish, mental anguish, drug addiction, alcohol. It's sad, but I can see how spirituality, not just Krishna consciousness, but just pursuing spiritual inquiry has helped me, as well as the mental health, as well as, the yoga and other things. So I try to present it to people that, if you want to be happy, you got to take care of yourself. So, you need to take care of your body, your mind, your soul. And so, whatever inclination, I have some coworkers that I talk to at work that are very devout Christians. and I know that I'm not going to sit there and, I don't try to convert them to my, spiritual pursuit, but I try to find common ground that they already share, and then just talk about that. So to someone that maybe hasn't pursued any spirituality at all, I mean, you could always, like, I would suggest reading some of, I know it's a lot, but reading some of the works of, like, Carl Jung and some of these psychologists, where they start to talk about the shadow self. I've talked about it before in our episode, but really doing some self-examination. And this goes spiritually as well as psychologically, but start to look within and be honest with yourself about your strengths and your weaknesses and what's really important to you. And I feel that as you do that, you're naturally, again, like, as you turn within, Krishna reciprocates with you in whatever way that you approach him. So, if Buddhism or, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, if you feel drawn to that, you feel attracted to that, I would just say, rather than worrying about what other people are doing or how advanced other people are, just worry about yourself. Just worry about bettering yourself. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, whether that's going to therapy or, doing meditation, something like that. Yeah, it pays off so much, because I unfortunately have had to witness the effects, of, I mean, you go so far down a rabbit hole, it's really hard to come back. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think it has to do with when it comes to, like, spirituality, it's usually just kind of finding out where they're at, starting with a little curiosity about them and what they've lived through, what their experiences have been, and then based on whatever they express, normally I just kind of communicate my belief. And again, from a very non-sectarian standpoint of, like, this is my belief, but I don't think it's any different than any other spiritual path, really. I think there's some more details in our scripture, etc., but it doesn't mean that I think it's something that I've even told people before, that, like, the whole not trying to convert thing. We believe that you're a spirit soul. We believe that your eternal position is already within you. You're just in this body. You're covered up in this illusion currently. You're going through what you need to go through. So if you, like, the goal is to remember, not to convert, not to convince, not to change your mind. It's to help you remember your true self. So if you remember your true self and it's not what I think it will be, I don't care. So it's not about me trying to convince you of anything. It's just helping people to kind of go a little deeper within themselves. And I find that a lot of times it's actually recently been, like, very, like, starting out that way with a little curiosity, and then kind of giving them that sort of, like, just kind of, what do you call it, disclaimer at the beginning, so they get that. And I tell people, like, I'm just telling you what I believe. I'm not trying to convert you. It sounds really strong. I'm just telling you. I'm just answering your question very, like, pointedly. But I've had some great questions about that, talking about reincarnation and all those things. And then once you've done that, then it makes it a little easier for them to stomach it. They're willing to suspend their disbelief and just listen to what you may think. They don't feel like you're trying to, like, if you don't attack them with it, it's just like a conversation. And I hear them too. We talk about, talk about Bible story stuff. It's not like I'm just telling them everything and then thinking that the conversation went well. But yeah, and I think there's so much analogy that Prabhupada has presented to us, that the Vedas present to us, that just talk about, like the fact that there's so many other cycles in the world. There's seasons, there's the tide goes in and out. Even women have cycles. Like, there's so many examples, the scientific examples of the fact that everything is a cycle. So time, the yugas being a cycle, reincarnation, the fact that we go in one body to the next, like, all of it just makes sense. There's so much of nature.
Or even the laws of conservation of energy, even it's like physics, basic physics.
Yeah. There's so many examples that to some extent, with some reasonable doubt, you can pretty much prove that there's got to be something like a reincarnation. Your soul goes on to something else after, most likely. At least there's a reasonable argument for that people can at least accept the logic behind the argument once you present it in that way. From there.
Actually, I just wanted to add that I do I try to just, I try to let, like he said, I try to just kind of keep to myself and be friendly to people. So then if the opportunity presents itself, then we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, yeah. And when I do start explaining where I'm coming from, if they ask, I start with karma and reincarnation, and whatever faith they're coming from, generally Christianity, most of the people I talk to, and I explain,
we are in the South, right?
Yeah, I try to explain reincarnation and karma in a way that jives with the background that they're familiar with, the Bible. I point out that that Jesus doesn't refute that. He doesn't, and many of his, first off, you reap what you sow. That right there, that's karma. So I try to dig a little deeper on that, because I feel like when people grasp the idea of, like to Nitai's point, karma and reincarnation, that, because you have to have both of them, and when you have both of them there, they help to open up. It allows you now, when you understand the fundamental of that, allows you to zoom out and start looking at your life, not just in this lifetime, but many, many lifetimes. And that's when things start to fall into place and you realize, whoa. I try to go that route.
I had a really cool conversation regarding that, and I can make it pretty quick here. But basically, regarding the idea, like somebody was talking to me about spirituality, and I was asking them what they believe. If they believe in reincarnation, the answer was no. They were a spiritual person; they didn't feel reincarnation. I was like, I mean, I understand it's not something that everybody believes in, but then I was asking them, like, but you believe that God is merciful? Oh yeah, most merciful. So I'm like, so what doesn't make sense to me on the no reincarnation aspect is that if there's no reincarnation, and at the end of your life, you just you either burn in hell for eternity, which is what's not everyone believes that, but some people do, or you go to heaven. But it's like one or the other, and then it's it.
Black and white.
So God is infinitely merciful, except at the end of your life. And also, if he's infinitely merciful, it becomes weird when you start to think about the kid that gets born with some kind of disability, or the kid that gets like a 3rd-degree burn when they're 2 years old, or these like why, if God's infinitely merciful, why that? Yeah. And they're like, well, it's God's plan. I'm like, yeah, but what does that mean? Like God's plan, and why would that be? Why is that a merciful God's plan? When you start to think about karma in the sense of like a much wider, like Hans was saying, like a snapshot of over many lifetimes, just like you reap what you sow, in the sense, like if you throw sand up in the air and it gets in your eye, it's not God's fault. Yeah. You threw sand in the air, and that was some of the sand got in your eye. So maybe you did something, and it's the equal and opposite reaction. Another scientific principle, like you're doing something, you're kind of getting the results of your action. And sometimes when you go through some suffering, it actually helps you to go, wow, I need to get out of this. Like, this is so up and down. Like, I'd like to get to somewhere where this up and down doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And if happiness was permanent here, then we wouldn't want to go home. Yeah. If we could have a permanent happiness here, where would we? So it's almost in a way to like kind of help us be like, let's get to someplace better. Yeah.
Suffering is the constant reminder that Krishna actually mercifully bestows, through our free will. We're really punishing ourselves, but it's a constant reminder. Hello, what are you doing? Yeah. An example I gave the other day, I think it was when we were, was you're at a birthday party, right? And the birthday boy is there, and everyone's all over him, right? And you're the kid, you get in a fight with the birthday boy, you get your feelings hurt, and you go inside, you start playing video games on the TV. Everyone's out here having this party, right? And after a while, you're just like, and you go in there with the idea that like, I'm just gonna play, and then after a while, you're like, man, like, what am I doing? I'm bored. And then you come back out and you see the party still going on without you. And you're like, okay, I can stay in here trying to enjoy by myself and be miserable, or I can just come back out here, humble myself, and join the party once more. Yeah. And I feel like that's really kind of the dynamic that's going on here with us in the material world. You're envious of the birthday boy. And so
that's a very interesting analogy. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said, Hamsa, about approaching it from if they're open for it. Start with a very, take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
take care of your body or mental health, and if they're open for it, you can get into more deeper things. That is something that I liked in Krishna consciousness, because with my background, where I came from, is about converting, right? Saving them.
Yeah.
They need to be saved.
Saving, yeah.
And at all costs, which I understand that concept. I think our Vaishnavacharyas, our spiritual masters, they have that mercy within them. They want to give Krishna consciousness to everybody, but it's done with a few guidelines, right? Even to speak of Krishna's, of the glories of the holy names to the faithless is an offense, right? So I think we have to balance that all out with, are they wanting, not even ready. I don't like the word ready, because who is really ready? The question is, do you want to hear? And for those that want to hear, when you feel the open there, you can share a little bit with them.
I was at work for I was working there for 5 years before anybody ever asked me, and I didn't talk about it. They just knew I was a little different. They knew I was a Hare Krishna because my name's different, and I don't hide it, but I didn't talk about it. But then recently, people they all respect me on a person, they got to know me. They know who I am. Yeah. They like me to some extent for whatever reason. And then now they want to oh, well, were you someone the other day? Somebody's like, were you a monk? They're just curious now. It's what's your background? And now it's you talk about it. Whereas if I had met them day 3 and been let me tell you about what I believe, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's very what Hans and you are saying is so key, the letting them come to you, and then they're in a place where they want to hear about it.
When they come to you, and then the interaction is natural. Because the thing is, I try to see when I am, I say attempting to preach, but when I'm, especially with some of these patients that are dying, and I end up having these really deep connections with them and these conversations, sometimes I've had these experiences, I've shared them with Nitai before, where it's so weird. It doesn't feel anymore like I'm just talking to another person, because I've had these patients that they don't know me. They're not anywhere near my age. They're dying, and they tell me something in the context of a conversation, but it's something that I really, really needed to hear, because it's something that's really tearing at me. And I mean, those moments, I'm getting better now at realizing wow, this is coming from Krishna. This super soul within this person is inspiring them to say these things, because that's what I need to hear. And so I try to see if people are there. If sometimes they just need you to hold their hand. Other times they want to talk to you. They want to talk to you, and they want to talk about Jesus, whatever. They want to talk about, the most important thing is to be there for them, because that's ultimately what we're about, is just showing them love. And when you love somebody, you be there for them in whatever way they need. And when you and to be that, to do that successfully, to your point earlier, you have to live in the moment. If you're stuck living in the past and ruminating, oh man, I wish I would have done that, you're not even in the present. You're in the past. Or if you're stressing about the future, you're not enjoying the present. You're not able to see. And I think at least this is my understanding, and this hit me the other day when I was playing with Veda, and I'm thinking Prabhupada says in the spiritual world, it transcends space and time. So the way I see it is that the spiritual world is a place where there's no suffering, only happiness, and you are always living in the moment. It's possible to achieve that here in this lifetime with the right state of consciousness. You may be living in your body, but consciousness and if you're living in the present and you're always seeing everything about you, I'm taking care of my child, and I'm taking care of that pastime my son and I were listening to the other day, where Brahma steals the cows and the cowherd boys, and then Krishna, boom, expands himself. But then I actually had a question. I'm like, I've heard this pastime so many times, and I'm thinking, but what's the difference between if Krishna is the super soul within those cowherd boys, and then he expands himself into cowherd boys again? How does the love from the gopis and the cowherd boys of Vrindavan increase even more if Krishna was already present in the cowherd boys and the cows to begin with? I had this question. I'm going to ask it to, I don't know, the next bona fide guru that I'm able to. because but that struck what I took away from that was if we try to live our life in a way where our interactions with everyone in our life, our kids, our mom, our dad, right? In Goloka Vrindavan, we have, Krishna has these relationships, mother, father, lover, brother. So that's also one thing that attracts me so much to bhakti is you can have the relationship like that with God himself.
Yeah.
And all of us can have an intimate relationship with him, but that intimate relationship is 100% unique.
Yeah.
Because even though we all are spirit souls, we're all also individual.
Yeah.
So I find that like so attractive. So if you choose to see I'm raising these kids and I'm trying to treat them, and God, I know I need to work on this. It's like, I know. But this is what I strive for. This is, what I would like to, where you treat your wife and in a way that, honors her, or treat your mother and your father in a way that honors her, honors them, as Krishna treated his mom and dad, or as his mom and dad treated him. Like, if we try to nurture that kind of sentiment in our relationships, that's really Krishna conscious.
Yes.
And then at that point, you don't need to be a sannyasi. You can be a grihasta. You can have kids, but you're not tied to the world.
And that is the practicality of Krishna consciousness, which I think sometimes a lot of people miss. Because I'm like, it's, as I was talking to AVs, it's like, unfortunately for the first generation, the gurukulis, the first generation of the young ones born within Krishna consciousness, a lot of them experience, like you see people that are chanting for years, right? When they were on their teens, right? You see people that their parents, friends of their parents, were chanting for years. You have your hand on your bead bag, but you're also an a-hole. Like, he used that word. Like, he even said, you're chanting, but then you're mistreating people. You see, like, they have not understood. All glories to them, because they're at least trying. They understand it. They're trying to come and surrender. Them, all glories to them. But we have to see that they have not understood the philosophy. They're not grasped in a practical manner, because it is practical. What you just said is what I saw. It's like, wow, here's a practical philosophy, something that it can be practiced. Is spiritual life in a very practical way, where I can.
It's a gradual process too.
It's a gradual process, but it's
based
in the truth. Like, as simple as this. What you just mentioned, I resonated so much with it, which is this: how I try to live my life. My relationship with my wife is a relationship based on what? Is it based in sense gratification? Is it based on exploitation, that she's there to serve me, or is based on service, on understanding that who she really? First of all, understanding who I really am. Then, of course, byproduct of that, and understanding who she really is. And then we are not this body, right? But beyond that, we are what? We are Jivera Swarupa Hoy. We are servants of Krishna, part and parcels of that Supreme Soul. So if the moment of my karma led me to have this relationship with her, and vice versa, how am I going to approach that? That's where in the moment I have a choice. That's where in the moment I am Krishna consciousness, or in the moment I'm not Krishna consciousness. And
Maya or Krishna.
Exactly. And exactly. And both are available. It's nice that you said that. I asked just this weekend a Vaishnava that I have respect for here, that is dedicating his life to serve Srila Prabhupada and lives it 24/7. Asking, can a neophyte devotee approach material life, approach his life, his or her life? But as he or she is experiencing life, he actually sees the Yoga Maya feature of Mayadev. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Yoga Maya, Maha Maya. Yoga Maya is the spiritual connection with Krishna, right? Maha Maya is that material connection, material potency. So can the neophyte devotee, that is not advanced or anything like that, a neophyte, just trying to chant, understand Krishna, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the extent that he or she can, but is trying to engage the best way possible. Can he or she approach their material life, seeing that Yoga Maya is actually acting in their life, so they will not push against the things that are happening to them, will help them relax and trust. And he's like, yes. He just gave me a yes, and I know that was a forceful, not a forceful, but a convincing yes, because if he was not, he was going to get into it with me. You know what I'm saying? But then when he says just yes, because it's a convincing one, yes, you can. And it makes complete sense because both features, Yoga Maya and Mahamaya, are available to the Jiva in the moment. It's up to me. It's up to me to choose to approach. Am I going to approach this? Some suffering. The wife, maybe. I keep giving this example, and Chandra's like, why do you say that all the time? People are going to think that I'm mean, you know? But
I know.
she's not at all. She's a loving wife, a great mother. I love my wife. But I just give the example as three men here speaking. You know, if the wife, you're having some issues in the relationship, the wife is being a little moody or giving you an attitude. How am I going to approach it? Am I going to try to control her and prove her wrongdoing, or am I going to understand who I really am and who she really is, and understand that she's experiencing the momentum of her past activities, that Maya is actually forcing her to act this way. And I'm also experiencing the momentum of my past deeds, my past misdeeds, because I'm emotionally involved. Whatever she's doing is affecting me. If one has that understanding, it's like, okay, how do I approach this from this perspective? It's, go general, right? You have to go general. She's Krishna Dasi. She's the servant. No, she's not. She's the servant of my Gurudev, the servant of Krishna. What is the mood to serve? If she's saying this and I'm having an emotional response, a negative emotional response, I'm responsible for it. It's my fault. There's no assertion. She's not doing anything to me. I'm experiencing the results of my own karma. But that realization alone is so high, and I'm not saying that I'm high or anything like that in understanding, but I had confirmation, like this is the process, because then you learn to understand that it's like, yes, and then that understanding, the feature of Maya Devi that bonds it, because I'm not reacting to it, that becomes Yoga Maya. It becomes the source of my liberation, because I start getting momentum in understanding who I really am. And then the other side is, if I push against it, if I push against it, try to control, the Mahamaya feature of Maya takes momentum, and then keeps me in that momentum and that.
You made the wrong choice, boy.
Yeah, and here we go. You think this is bad? Here's something more.
Yeah, what struck me when you said that, so in the moment, you have two choices. We'll liken it to the red pill and the blue pill, right?
Yes.
So, and I just had this, as you said that, it struck me so intently that in the moment, if you choose Krishna, and this is what Krishna consciousness is all about, is remembering Krishna in the moment all the time. Because when you remember Krishna, all of a sudden the momentum of the karma that was forcing you to behave the way you were behaving, it melts away. And that's what so that's what Srila Prabhupada means when he says Krishna consciousness eradicates all of your past karma. As long as you're living in the moment, Krishna conscious, those things don't affect you anymore.
You're slowing the momentum.
Or at least you're able to transcend them in the moment, as long as you're still Krishna conscious. And as soon as you let it slip, boom, you come tumbling down again.
Exactly. You're slowing down the momentum. This is what I saw with Krishna consciousness. Like, because if I react, even try to teach my kids that. Don't react to things. We want to act. Use the intelligence, and from where you stand, with the information, with the feedback you're receiving, you want to act from that platform. But don't react, because when you react emotionally, you're just enhancing the momentum of what is. Whatever it is. The kid, whatever it is. But if I don't react and I understand that whatever I'm experiencing right now, because it's triggering an emotional response within me, is my responsibility, is my fault, quite bluntly. It's my fault. So if it is my fault, because I have given knowledge, I accept it, and from that perspective, I move towards what is wanted, which is what? Giving the example with the wife, and this is very practical to me, because what I try to do, giving the example of husband and wife. What do I want in that momentum, in that moment, right? What do I want? when the wife is being, is speaking to me in a way that it carries some negative feelings or something like that.
Yeah.
I have to use intelligence and think that, no, I want us to be happy. I want her to be loving. I want to be loving. And then do and say whatever I can to move me towards what I want. And that's what I think that is like Krishna consciousness addresses all these things.
It does.
But with a lot of people,
100%.
it gets lost in the mysticism of it. Or just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Yes, that of course, that is true.
Yeah.
That is 100% true. Srila Prabhupada spoke and it's true. Gurudeva have said it is true. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Now you have to go deeper. What does actually mean to chant Hare Krishna? Right? You have to go deep. One says, Vaishnavism, simplicity is Vaishnavism. Yes, that is true. What does that mean to be simple? Have to go deeper. What they have said is 100% truth. It is real truth, is reality.
Yeah.
But how do I perceive it and approach it
I
from
apply
where
it?
I stand? Because a lot of people try to get there from there. You cannot get to Vrindavan from Vrindavan. You're not there though. Right? Like we can only get there from where we are, from where we stand. And that means something to me, and it means something different to you guys based on the relationships and the momentum that our past decisions and desires have led us to. And that's why I'm so enlivened by this philosophy and the choice of pursuing Krishna consciousness. And I think that it is a solution for everything. For everything.
Yeah.
For the dying, for the teenager, because it's very practical. And a lot of that, that's the conversation I had with AV when we first spoke. A lot of that practicality got lost. In the especially when the Acharya leaves our material senses, our vision, our physical vision. A lot of it gets lost
That's why I think one of the most important things for our generation to do, and I've been working on it myself, Nitai as well, is we have to read the Acharya's books for ourselves.
Yes.
Just like a teacher in the university, you're listening to the teacher speak, but yet you're also referencing the book.
Yeah.
If you only sit there and take what the teacher's telling you, he can be pulling stuff out of his ass.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're with a bona fide guru, the bona fide guru won't be doing that. But I think one of the questions I've been asking myself is like, well, how do I know who is the bona fide guru? Who's right for me? Not that I'm like, I don't mean it in that. I just mean like, how do I find the person that's actually going to like understand where I'm coming from in such a way as to like propel me along most like effectively. And so I think, well, the number one thing that came to me was like, well, first off, Srila Prabhupada is, what more bona fide guru do I need right there? Yes. So if I read his books and then I hear someone speaking and presenting Krishna consciousness and it adds up to what the other acharyas are saying, then, that's, if you're living your life, you're serving Krishna, and you're teaching the same things and you're not taking credit for it, and you are presenting the philosophy in a way that is true to what the acharyas say, then you're a bona fide guru.
Yeah.
And those are the people that we should be looking for guidance.
That's true though. I will add one more thing, and I'm only adding that because I heard from I heard from several classes. Guru Govinda Swami Maharaj is very famous from saying those things.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying is correct. I just would add to the top of that list. He'll say, how do you find bona fide guru? You cry to Krishna. Cry like children, because and that I resonated so much to that, because I grew up my whole life I lived based on my own endeavors, thinking I could do it. I can understand, I can do it. And then material nature gave me evidence that, you're right, look at the things you have done. And now I realize that it is illusion. Like I don't hold knowledge. And yes, I'm being giving, I've been given an understanding, and I can hold on to what is mine, which is desired. I desire to understand, but the knowledge is not mine. So when he said that, I thought it was so nice, because it's like children, right? We don't depend on our own understanding, because if I try to see, he's saying match the words, of course I'm not. It's not a jab at you or anything. I understand what you're saying, and I agree 100%, because you have to have some validation, and Srila Prabhupada's books are definitely the textbooks for whoever is speaking, right, on that subject. But we have to also, as Guru Govinda Swami Maharaj says, is like depend on Krishna, because cheaters also speak philosophy. Mayavadis,
of course, that's true.
They are expert in speak the words. They say the same thing.
That's very true.
But the realization is not in the level of our acharya's realization.
So that
something to add.
So your endeavor cannot not get you to the guru. The guru. Actually, I was hearing Prabhupada lecture the other day while I was cooking, and he said the guru, the bona fide spiritual master. I'm paraphrasing, but the bona fide spiritual master is the direct representative of Krishna. They are essentially like an incarnation.
Yes.
An incarnation of Krishna's Shakti coming right to you. Yeah, and absolutely, just like Mother Yasoda couldn't tie Krishna, that we can do all the effort we want, but at the end, it's all ultimately is up to His mercy to bestow it to us. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's nice. Sorry, Nitai, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing that you guys are talking about, practicality and all these things, that is, I feel like, also a very important aspect of what we believe, is that I think it's nice, we don't believe that you have to go in the forest and renounce everything and just meditate and say Om until your last breath. The whole Bhagavad Gita is about how Arjuna has to keep Krishna at the center of everything and still do his duty, still go to work, so to speak, still protect the people he's supposed to protect, still get in the fights that he's supposed to, like, protect the holy name, and so we don't have to not be part of the world.
Yes.
We're in the world. We're just not part of it. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Like, we're here. We have to do our duty. But when we make it about being for Krishna, it's all becomes spiritual. Like what you guys are talking about. When Krishna is at the center of everything you're doing, it's all spiritual.
Yes.
And instead of it being like, I am cooking for myself, you're cooking for Krishna. You're going to work. Why? To provide a house where you have Krishna and you offer him food and you to raise a family in Krishna consciousness. When it all becomes about Krishna, then you spiritualize all your material activities. And then you're living a spiritual life, a Krishna consciousness, a Krishna conscious life. Yeah. And that is so prevalent and such a simple lesson in the Bhagavad Gita, but it's there the whole time. It's just like, you have to do your duty. And how do I make my duty about Krishna? And that's like, I mean, to me, that's a simple, but also very important lesson.
100% though, 100%. And I think for us as devotees, and I'm saying that because of course you guys are devotees, grew up in this movement. And it's something that I realized and I want to understand. It is another question that I also asked to practicing Vaishnavas that I respect very much, is that it's important for us to train ourselves. Like you say, we're doing for Krishna. It's like, no, we're doing for Guru Krishna, because we can't approach Krishna. We cannot. But I know what you're saying, Nitai, right? You have to think of Krishna. But why do we think of Krishna? Because it's what Guru wants us to do, right? It's encouraged. So he was saying, practice saying it, Chaitanya. He told me. He's like, practice saying it. Say it.
Guru Krishna.
Guru Krishna. It's Guru Krishna. We don't approach Krishna without Guru. This is
Nityananda.
Exactly.
You can't get to Lord Chaitanya without the mercy of Nityananda.
Exactly. And who is Lord Nityananda? Right? The Guru. He's Akhanda Duru Tattva. Right? He is the truth of that line. So it makes so much sense to me. But like, here's a philosophy that is just practical. It's just very practical, and I can practice from where I am. Right? I'm not exoteric. I'm not anything. I'm just a man. A father, a husband, and in the moment. Star Wars fans, exactly, right? That I can see. I can see. Oh yeah, right there. I can see everything in relation to Krishna, in relation to Guru, and in that vision, I can choose what's favorable and what is unfavorable. I just look at that. People are like, "Oh, everything." Like, no, you just walk the path, and you see, is it favorable or unfavorable to the relationship you're trying to develop. And you will know the answer. No one needs to tell you. You will know in your heart of hearts the answer to that question. If whatever you're doing is favorable or unfavorable to the cultivation of that relationship. And that for me is like, wow, it's very practical. It's not like a doctrine that is so difficult to understand. I have to do this. Like, no, it's very practical. Of course, Krishna consciousness is so deep, right? Philosophically, you can get to so many other levels of that relationship, the relationship between us, who we really are, spirit souls, and Guru, and who he really is in relationship to Krishna. You just mentioned something really nice, Hamsa, which is like, who is Guru, right? He's Krishna himself. He's Krishna, a representative of Krishna. Just this morning, I was listening to a lecture, and Maharaj was saying, who is Krishna? Because who is Guru? Guru is Bhagavan. Mayavadi say that also. Mayavadi, the impersonalist philosophers, they say the same thing, that Guru is Bhagavan. And they say, yes, I'm Bhagavan. But Vaishnava philosophy approaches it differently. It says, yes, Guru is Bhagavan. We sing in Guru Vastakam, we sing the prayer Shakshad Hari, the same potency as Hari, right? The same power as Hari. But what does that mean? Guru is Sevaka Bhagavan. He's a servant of Krishna. And Krishna is Sevaya Bhagavan. He's the one that receives that service, right? Guru never says, I am Krishna. I am God. I am Bhagavan. So it's just this subtle things that puts the jiva, or who we really are, in this proper position, right? It's the way that you constitutional position. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you serve Krishna, you recognize who the Guru is, who Krishna is. You serve Krishna through your Guru, and Krishna reciprocates you by bestowing mercy on you through the Guru.
Exactly.
So he's the conduit.
Well, it's kind of like a parent situation again. Like if you like with Hans, even like for example, I give a lot of love and attention to Hans's children. Why? Because I have a lot of love for Hans, and also I like his kids. But like that relationship developed because of me and Hans's friendship. But the same way with Krishna, you serve his devotee, and that will please him. So much more than you don't. He doesn't. It's not like he needs you to come serve him. He's all. He has everything he needs. He's omniscient, omnipotent. He is all knowing. But when you serve his devotee, he sees that and he's so happy. You're making him happy by serving his devotee. Serving him, what does he need you to serve him for, really? But when you serve his devotee, he is in bliss because he's so happy. Just like when I'm taking care of Hans's kids or playing around with them and stuff. It's like, wow, it's so nice. Like, he's out there playing with the kids. Like that's how you get to the heart of Krishna, is by serving the people that are close to his heart.
For sure.
Providing service. And then really quickly, I wanted to touch on the Guru thing. We're talking about Guru and spiritual teachers and things like that. And I think it's also important to mention, because sometimes when you talk about a spiritual teacher or a guru, people get a little bit of a hang up of like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, whatever, I'm not going to accept a teacher. But then to me, I've recently been realizing that like everybody is accepting a guru on some weird topic or a teacher of something. Whether you're looking at the video on YouTube, you're reading a book to get instruction, you're asking a buddy how they did their roof. Exactly. Google. You're asking, you're accepting a guru. You're accepting whoever wrote that article as your teacher on that particular, like a construction teacher, or you're looking up whatever. That's what we're doing all day long. So why wouldn't we also need one for spiritual matters? If we're looking in every other matter in our life for a teacher, then we of course also need a teacher for spiritual matters.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
we do
100%,
have internal guidance, though. We do have guidance, because I think that's what people think. Because I was having a conversation with someone, and they're telling me, like, we talk about spiritual master and guru and instructor and stuff like that. But what about, I can figure it out for myself. Like, I've done things as like, yes, you have. We don't deny that you have spiritual guidance. You have that voice, right? The Christian philosophy talks about, tradition talks about the Holy Ghost. Right, we believe in Paramatma. It's in the heart. You have that instruction. You have that, but you have to understand that at some point that has to be made mature. You have to have some interaction where you can go deeper into ideas and go deeper into your understanding, and that internal guidance has to be manifested externally. And that is actually the process of Krishna consciousness. When one becomes mature, Guru, what is Gurudev? What is Guru? Is Paramatma that came out of the heart and became and came out, so now relationship can be established, right?
I actually as you were speaking there, I just had what came to me was the guru comes to you from Krishna as a personification so that you have someone to surrender to, because you're absolutely right. You can be the smartest person in the world. You can read it all and you can click and it can, but you're still missing that personal aspect.
Yes.
And that personal aspect is that last thread that you have to cut is surrendering your free will to Krishna through the guru.
The other thing about self-realization is it sounds good, and yes, you have it within you. But the other problem is that our mind is very tricky. Then sometimes you think you're listening to your Paramatma, and you're listening to your desire,
100%.
to your lust.
Yeah, and
to
it can be
greed.
so sneaky.
Yes.
It can come to you through some really.
And so they help you
ways.
decipher: is that Paramatma telling you that, or is that your desire, some weird, maybe greedy or lustful thing that you're actually looking for?
100%.
So that's another reason.
100%. There's a lecture where Maharaj is speaking. I'm saying Guru Govinda because I'm kind of on a roll here listening to his katha, and it's so good. Yeah. But it was a lecture that he says is like. He's funny because he makes faces like this and point with his finger, and he's like, you might say that, you got some prompting from Paramatma. Sometimes that happens. You have some prompting. He says prompting from Paramatma, and he says, and the devotee says, "Oh, I'm hearing from Paramatma, I'm getting some prompting." And he's like, and how do you know if it's Paramatma? He's like, he thinks I'm getting some prompting for Paramatma, but Maya is speaking. Maya is telling him, and he thinks and he thinks it's Paramatma. So how do you know? Because only devotee, he says, only a devotee hears the prompting of Paramatma. So how do you know if it's Maya or Paramatma? You go to Sadhu and Shastra. Sadhu Guru will speak. You go to them and you speak to them, and they will speak. And Sadhu and Guru speak what is in Shastra. So they're gonna have the same idea. Then if they say yes, it's correct, then you can say great, Paramatma is giving me prompting, is speaking to me. Yes. Otherwise, it's Maya speaking, and that's what I was like. See, these Vaishnavas, they speak in this way. And sometimes people get lost in the mysticism of it or something. But no, if you try to understand which what I do, if I try to understand from where I am and see the practicality of what he's saying, it's clear. Because it's like people like, it relates to what you're just saying, Nitai. When people say like, I have internal guidance. Yeah, but who are you listening to though? Most people are listening to their minds. Most people are listening to their minds. Like, and the mind, we know based on philosophy, is designed to gratify the senses. Is designed to surrender to the senses, right? Is designed to find the path of least resistance. Like, so materially speaking. So you have to understand, it's like, okay, who am I really listening to, right? And which even before that, one has to ask the question, who am I identifying as the self first? Because you might be identifying, thinking yourself, and you're not knowing that you're identifying with the mind. You didn't even get to intelligence, what to speak of the soul, of who you really are. Like it's so deep, and you'll see most people are totally they're so lost because they're identifying either with the mind or with false ego, which is in connection with the mind. And then it's like, but what about this? What about that? I don't listen to myself anymore. Or I listen to myself. It's like you become lost, become so confused. And that's why Krishna consciousness is so, because it's a clear philosophy, very practical.
Yeah, for sure.
And that has been my experience. And it's sad sometimes when you speak with some people which is not the case here. That's why I appreciate you guys jumping in and having this conversation with me.
This has been awesome, man.
It's sad to see people that had this opportunity being born, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, their karma, whatever you want to call, but you see that it is spoiled them in a sense that, it created kind of a bad taste. Exactly. It's a tragedy.
Such a tragedy.
And that's why I want to have these conversations, just to talk to people from all different backgrounds and understanding, so we can together try to approach it from a practical way, and then move towards what is wanted, because everybody wants to be happy. Everything we do for one reason and one reason only. We think we'll be happier in the doing of it or in the having of it. Everything.
Yep.
It's either to everything you're doing is either to be happy or to get out of distress.
Which means
Which
what?
is also
I want to
to be
be happy,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
the other
Yeah,
side
so
of that coin.
you're and until you in it's like the earlier when we were talking to Nitai's dad, was it where I used the example of the being in the ocean and getting knocked around by the
waves.
waves? No, that wasn't with your dad.
No.
Oh God. Oh, sorry. I had so many freaking conversations. It was with my therapist this morning. Jesus. I was telling her how, sometimes it feels like you're being tossed around and you're in the ocean but like, the harder you struggle, the quicker you sink.
Yes.
And when you just kind of surrender and relax and lay back and float and just breathe, that's when all of a sudden you're okay. You're riding up. You're still going up and down the waves, but you're not getting the crap beaten out of you as much. And
That's
hopefully the guru, the person in the boat, can come along and scoop you up out of the water.
And even that surrendering, though, because that's another conversation I was having with my father-in-law. I think it's so practical because if you understand, people are like, oh, it's difficult to surrender. Yes, it's difficult for the difficult and simple for the simple. Because if we understand who you really are, like Jiva Shakti, and the nature of who you really are, you will understand that surrendering is natural. You cannot do anything but surrender. But people are surrendering to what? They're surrendering to their distress. They're surrendering to their material life. It's the condition of the soul to surrender. We have, as Jiva Shakti, we have to come under some. Is either Maya Shakti or Yoga Maya. Maha Maya or Yoga Maya.
Maha Maya, Yoga Maya.
But we cannot help but surrender. So if I know that, and then that understanding paired with the understanding of that I'm not the doer, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, we're not the doers, right? Material nature is actually carrying out the activities. We are under the illusion. But I use the example.
Puppets.
My wife and I and the kids, we went to Universal, right? Do the Hogwarts thing because Veda is a huge Harry Potter fan, and we were doing the rides, and I was like, dude, the ride is just like our life in this material world. I'm literally sitting there. I cannot do anything. There's nothing I could do in the moment to change what was happening to me. Nothing.
Yeah.
And they make it so like vivid, right? You can feel the mist. You feel when the dragon shows up, you feel the heat, right? And it's a screen, but they make it very vivid where your senses are in touch with what's going on. But in the moment, there's nothing I could do but experience whatever is happening and hope that would be done. The ride would end soon, right? In my case, she wanted to go longer. I wanted like, Jesus, please get me out of here, right? But for me, it's like this is our life in this material world. But we are under the illusion that I can fight the dragon. That I can do this, that I can do that, not knowing that it's like, nope, the material nature is carrying out the activities. You cannot do anything. Why? Because you're not the doer. Jiva doesn't do anything. There's only one doer, one Purusha, one master is Krishna. He does everything. We are what? To be enjoyed.
We're on the ride.
To be enjoyed. He's the only enjoyer, right? He's the only enjoyer. We are the Shakti, he's the Shaktiman. He's the energetic, we are the energy. So when you put all these understandings together, surrendering is a byproduct. It's like, dude, I cannot do anything else but surrender. So, and how am I going to surrender? From where I stand, to the wife, to the children, from the perspective of what? Of serving, right? My kids. Yeah. How do I surrender to my kids? I don't surrender to my kids by letting them run the house and do whatever they want to do. No. I surrender to my kids by educating them, loving them, doing the best I can do to take care of them as Krishna's, part and parcels. How do I surrender to the wife? By serving, by being a husband, by loving, by caring, by stepping up or stepping down, whatever the situation calls for. But whatever I choose to do, I do with not I choose to do because we already established that we're not the doer. But whatever I hold in my consciousness or my desire in the moment, I hold with that intention to serve, to serve.
Yeah.
And whatever momentum is taking me, I don't push against it. I don't try to control. So when you have that kind of understanding, or that kind of approach, with the understanding that we're given in Krishna consciousness, that we're not this body, that we're not the doers, right? The understanding of karma, like surrendering sharanagati, as we say, right? Surrender becomes a byproduct of it, so it becomes easy. It's like, dude, it's actually not hard to surrender at all. It's easy.
Prabhupada actually points out that we're all surrendering. Like even people that don't have a relationship or kids, they're surrendering to their dog, or they get a dog, or they get a cat.
Exactly.
And now what they're doing, they're serving that dog, they're serving the cat, they're walking them, they're feeding them, they're providing a house for them.
You cannot help but surrender.
We all, and at the very least, you're serving your senses. If nothing else, you're serving senses. Where our constitutional position is service.
That's right.
Our choice is, who do we serve?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Either when you surrender, you're going to surrender to your mind, or you're going to surrender to Krishna. And along with surrender, I feel like love and surrender are kind of synonymous, because if you truly, fully love someone with all your heart, surrender is automatic.
You submit yourself to them.
And if you're 100% surrendered to that person, you love that person.
Yes.
You know, even if you're kept in jail, just because you're physically jailed there doesn't mean that mentally you've surrendered to your jailers.
Yes.
But with someone that you love, you actually are in a safe place to where you can fully open up, you can fully surrender, and you know that, and like in Lord Chaitanya says in the Shikshashtaka that, is it right? Even if you handle me roughly by your embrace, or make me brokenhearted by not being present before me. So even if, Krishna, you're going to abuse me and treat me badly, I don't care. I'm still going to surrender to you.
In relation to that,
and
I was saying,
so beautiful.
That is pure love. Pure love means there's all the reasons from an external point. All the reasons for that love to be broken exist, and yet the love is not broken. That is the love of Srimati Radhika towards Krishna. Yeah. He has all the reasons. She has all the reasons.
Yeah.
He's a player. He don't know everything. And I mean, I don't want to be an offender, but he's from the past times. You see, that's why in India, like in so many other, in Eastern countries, India, some people get it wrong, right? You see, what's his name though? That yogi, I forgot his name, but he talk about Krishna. They see Krishna. Sadguru. Thank you.
Sadguru.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, dude, they become offenders. You cannot listen to them because they see Krishna as someone that is like, listen. No, he said something that I'm like, you see, this is the worst advice you can give someone. He's like, don't listen to what he's saying. Look at what he's doing. You cannot do that because he's God. He's the supreme absolute truth. You do have to listen to what he's saying. Don't listen at what he's doing, because as Jiva you will be confused. So it's such bad advice. Guys, this has been awesome, dude. I'm gonna have to cut this conversation short, dude. But we have.
I know you're
gonna
get in trouble there. It's like 5:50.
I know.
Yeah.
I already hear some sounds coming from the background.
Yeah.
Let's schedule to do this again. We can have several of these conversations.
Yes, of course. And we would love to have you on our show also. That would be awesome.
Well, let's do like that. The next one, you guys schedule up. A month from now, 2 months from now, whatever. The next one you schedule and let me know, and I'll come on the sole purpose.
For sure. Thank you so much for your time and having us on here. It means so much, and I've learned a lot. I mean, I was taking notes. As a family man yourself and someone older than me, I mean, I feel like you really shared. I took away a lot from this. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. It gives me it's nice to hear people because I think we have a lot of the same understanding and same approach, right, towards Krishna consciousness. Very practical way. Always appreciated Nitai. I got the opportunity to work with him in the past. So I really appreciate you guys jumping into the podcast and recording this with me. And we have to do it again. I mean it. Schedule it
for sure.
Schedule it, and I'll come I'll join you guys. I'll join in a call for the sole purpose, and then I'm gonna after that I'll schedule you go back in the podcast.
Absolutely.
We can even I'll go as far as saying we can make it a let's make it
a mini-series.
An ongoing thing. Thank you, Nitai. That's what I was looking for.
Absolutely, I would love that. Yeah. It's not like we're ever going to run out of things to talk about in this topic. So it's like, the content just will make itself. So
Yes. No, and I know why I
absolutely.
appreciate you guys so much for doing this, because it's like that I think more and more of this type of conversations are needed. Like approaching Krishna consciousness from a very practical way. It's a practical philosophy. It's practical. It is practical. It's not that
Yeah.
you're gonna sit somewhere in a cave and chant Om or chant Hare Krishna. That is not
Yeah.
it. You have to do it from where you stand. You are we are being taken by the momentum. We come into this material world with momentum, right? Based on
Yeah.
our past activities. So how do I
Yeah.
approach from where I stand? And we already have had a deep conversation regarding that. And I like talking more and more about it, because the more we understand, the easier surrendering becomes. We comes to understand that it's like, dude, I don't have any option but surrender. Like choice is kind of like out of the choice kind of moves out of the picture, right?
Yeah.
People like, what choice do we have? I have no choice, dude. I can only surrender. So but I don't
Yeah.
want to push against that. I want to go with the
Yeah.
flow. That's why I
Yeah.
appreciate this conversation, and I certainly want to have you. I want to sit down again.
Absolutely, man. 100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Hamsa,
much.
thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Nitai, thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch. All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
All right. Thank you,
guys
guys.
have an awesome week.
You too. Haribo.
All right. Howdy.
All right, guys. This is it. The 108 Days of Chanting podcast. Nice conversation. It might be a little philosophical and deep for some of the listeners. If you feel this way, please don't feel discouraged. Even if this is not something that jives with you, I mean, if you're listening at this point, you're probably jiving with it. But if you're not, you just skipped ahead because it was too much. My only encouragement to you is, keep digging deep, realizing who you really are, so you can, again, as I said, more effectively move towards what we want or what you want. All right. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys in our next episode. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Hare Krishna.